I recently did a video talking all about Glyph of Dominion. Glyph of Dominion is the very tippy top new skill that Runemaster gets access to. So Runemaster will be playable on September 7th. It'll be a brand new mastery that a mage will have access to. So instead of just Spellblade or Sork, you could also be a Runemaster. So that's very cool. There's been a lot of hype over a couple of the flashy new skills like Runic Invocation, which gives you access to 40 different skills. Actually, 40 different skills, all tied up into one little skill. More on that if you want to watch other videos, but we are going to talk about an underrepresented skill, a skill that hasn't received much hype. So we talked about Glyph of Dominion previously, because that's a skill that hasn't received much hype. And now there's Runebolt. So I don't have pictures of Runebolt because I didn't take any at Gamescom and I didn't ask anybody else to take pictures of them for Gamescom. And all of the other information about Runebolt is under NDA. So I can't take pictures of it for you. But what I can do, and what I have received permission to do, is to recreate all of that information from my memory. So today, we will be diving into this beanie, into my brain, and discovering all of the information that I have stored up there about Runebolt, the new skill that I didn't like at first, and then as I played it more and more over the past couple weeks, I enjoyed it more and more because it has good niche interactions and it helps fuel the other builds that are out there. So Runebolt by itself, it looks like the basic wand attack that you have available in like Path of Exile, for example. It's not a particularly flashy skill all by itself. It shoots out one projectile and then it rotates between like being a fire skill, a lightning skill, and a cold skill. So for obvious synergy with Runic Invocation, which requires you to cast or to have different skills be cast, and then you get those glyphs, those runes above your head, and then when you click Runic Invocation, it does various skills based on the combination and the order of them. You know how Runic Invocation works. If you don't, you're in for a treat, but more on that later. So that's what Runebolt does at a base. It pierces always. So as a utility skill, it can apply ailments, which is nice. It has a little bit of mana generation built into it, which is quite nice. It helps to fuel the other Runic Invocations, which oftentimes do cost mana. So let's look at the skill tree, which I'm going to recreate perfectly. Maybe, perhaps, maybe. Okay, so right here, you have extra projectiles. You have a chance to shoot extra projectiles, and it goes up to a 100% chance to shoot extra projectiles. So by default, it shoots 1, and then it can shoot 3. They never shotgun, so that's never giving you extra damage, but it can give you extra coverage. They don't home like this. By default, they just shoot out in like in a straight line like this. But there's a node up here that kind of makes them target, which means like if you shoot this direction, one will go over here toward enemy number 1, one will go over here toward enemy number 2, and one will go over here toward enemy number 3, even though you fired in this direction here. So it's not like a curvy home, it's just like an auto target kind of thing. By default, they shoot in parallel, yes. So there's that. There's another node over here, which is inconsequential, and I don't know what it does. Don't ask me. The next, the next nodes after that, there's a node here that helps you generate mana. So we said there's fire, cold, lightning, and for these 3 rune bolts that you can shoot out, they each do different things here. So for each like fire that you shoot out, it gives you life gain on hits. For each cold that you shoot out, it gives you mana gain on hit. And for each lightning you shoot out, it gives you something. So we're going to call this mana because that's the only thing that I used it for. And now you can kind of understand how I was using this. This is the, let's call this like start. There we go. Over here, there's some synergy with Frost Wall. If you're shooting through Frost Wall, you gain like 20 or 30% more damage. So if you're actually interested in making Runic Invocation, or sorry, if you're actually interested in making, what's this skill called? Runebolt into a DPS skill, you'd want to collect as many more damage multipliers as possible. So shooting it through Frost Wall would give you a good chunk of extra damage. There are some suspiciously interesting nodes over here on the bottom right side, so I have to hide my face. The nodes on the bottom right side, they're a little weird. There's a travel node here, and I'm going to write STR for strength. There's a node that gives you flat spell physical damage per point of strength that you or a party member have, whichever one's higher. If you have friends that you play with in multiplayer, go ahead and call them up, go play some games. I have no idea what you're supposed to do with that, but it exists. It's important to note, I don't think that this gives you the fizz tag. So I think the only source of flat fizz is from that node itself. I had to double check, but for legal reasons, I can't. All right, so the next node down here, we have, I think it kind of looks like, I think it looks like this. I think there's like a node here, and a node here. So here's what this does. This is your DPS Runebolt on the bottom right side, and it has to do with an obelisk, which, you know, obelisks kind of look like that. The obelisks kind of look like this, right? So when you attack with Runebolt, you summon an obelisk, and that obelisk attacks with Runebolt, which means it's kind of like 100% more damage. One of these nodes here can summon a greater obelisk. Ooh, that has some extra more damage multipliers on it, but it only happens like once every 30 seconds or something. So that's cool. The specifics of these nodes, I don't remember. Isn't it just a totem? It's kind of like a totem. Why is this past the strength node? That's an excellent question. I don't know. So this is your DPS section down here. Let's see what comes next after that. Whew. This is like a little bit harder than I thought it was. Let's do the easy stuff. Let's do the easy stuff. The easy stuff is this section over here, because this is all of your conversions. Your conversions look like this. By default, it does fire, cold, and lightning. If you wanted to do only cold, you go over here. If you wanted to do only fire, you go over here. If you wanted to do only fans, only lightning, you go over here. So that's basically what this part of the skill tree looks like. If you want it to only have one element, then you're interested in doing that. Remember this node down here that gives you mana on hit or life on hit? You could manipulate your Runebolt skill tree in order to take more advantage of this node. Also, if you wanted your Runebolt only to cast fire, so that your Runic Invocation would be fire, so that you can shoot off big ass fireballs, this is a way that you could accomplish that. There's a node right here, which is extremely interesting, and I hope it stays in the game. This node says more damage per crafting material. Okay, so it doesn't exactly say that. This node here says it has a chance to double shoot equal to or relative to how many glyphs of chaos you have in your inventory. And then it caps at like 30% or so. Why is that there? I have no idea. It means from an SSF crafting stash. I'm pretty sure it means crafting stash. and not your immediate inventory. I'm pretty sure what this is meant to experiment with is early on in a brand new SSF league start scenario, this node's not particularly good, but if this is your second or third character, or you already have a bunch of crafting materials, then this has like a 30% chance to double fire, and a 30% for double is basically 30% more damage. Yeah, it's playtime scaling, which is interesting. It's also hilarious. It's adorable, chat. Okay, there's a few more things that we can talk about here. Let's use a different color so that we can start differentiating. The stuff down here, there's some nodes that look like this. Oh, sorry, what is this? This is starting to look like a small human, isn't it? This node right here is perhaps the most relevant in terms of mana generation. This node here says something along the lines of you have a, what's the number? I think it's like 50%, 30, 40, 30, 40, 30, maybe 30. It's like a 30% chance that when you shoot your Runebolt and hit an enemy, you restore 10 mana. Or 15 mana, or 20 mana, or something like that. The specifics are not important. What is important is that this node is a very good mana generator. It is quite, it's more important for mana generation than this other node on the right side here. It's really good if you need a mana generator in your build. Yeah, it's cool. It's honestly quite strong. These nodes down here, these have to do with like your runic invocations. I'm gonna write runic down here. Invocation. Yeah, that kind of says invocation. These have to do with your runic invocations right here. And there's two nodes. One node gives you base crits for your next runic invocation. It's like a 0 out of 3 node, and it gives you like 3 per point. So it gives you like 9 base crit on your runic invocation. And what's important about this is that runic invocation also has a node that boosts its own base critical strike chance. So the base crit on your runic invocations, especially if you're using Runebolt, can be quite high, even if you're not using Catalyst. The other node over here on the left side was, oh, what was it? It was like elemental penetration or something. It was like global elemental penetration. I think if you hit an enemy recently, something along those lines. So that's what these bottom nodes are here. The last couple nodes, let's grab a different color. I'm gonna grab pink, maybe blue. I'll grab blue. The last couple nodes over here, there's something that I've been teasing with my own Twitch chat, and it was fun to play. I don't know how competitive it was. So I'm going to share with you an idea that I had while I was playing on the CT server. And that was something that I called wild magic. And wild magic is a reference to D&D. I think it's a sork. You can spec into wild magic in D&D. And it's like you cast this big bad spell, and you basically roll a D100, and most of the spells are kind of okay. They deal okay damage. One of them turns you into a god, and one of them turns you into a frog. So like most of them are roughly the same. One's insane, and one's a crit failure. You know what I mean? So these nodes over here, they are very weird nodes. But what you can do with these nodes is enable something in the runic invocation skill tree, which allows you to get a very low cooldown and a 0 mana cost on your runic invocation as long as it's random. So what these nodes do here is they randomize the order of the glyphs above your head. And every time that you randomize not only the order, but the glyphs themselves, or the runes, whatever they're fucking called, every time that you randomize the runes or the glyphs above your head, there's another node in the runic invocation skill tree that says when you do that, you get bonus cooldown on your runic invocation. So you attack with Runebolt a whole bunch, you get bonus cooldown on your Runic Invocation, as long as you're okay with casting random bullshit. I don't know how competitive it is, but it was very enjoyable. So I frankly don't know what you're supposed to do with these nodes down here on Runebolt. Maybe they're only there just for fun, and they definitely were fun. I don't know what else you're supposed to do with it. What? So that's about it for the Runebolt skill tree. This node right here, I think this is cast speed. Right here, where that blue circle is. Yeah, I think that about does it. I might be missing like a node over here, and I don't remember what this node does. But that's the gist of the Runebolt skill tree. It's a role player. I'd be surprised if there were a Runebolt DPS build. I don't think that there's enough more damage multipliers, because there's like each of the fire, cold, and lightning have a more damage multiplier on them. And then you have the crafting thing for 30% more damage. You have global penetration, which kind of counts. And then you have like these weird nodes over here, which do give you more damage. I'd be a little bit surprised if there ends up being a Runebolt DPS build, but like, I want to try it. I absolutely want to try it because this looks adorable. Runebolt generates a ton of mana, which means you're free to do other stuff like casting a bunch of runic invocations, having frost walls going, like some built-in synergy. It sounds like a lot of fun. I don't know what to do with it in terms of a DPS build, but in terms of using it to buff up runic invocation, awesome. Playing the wild magic, random nonsense, fun. I'm not sure how good it is, but it's very fun. Using it as a mana generator, using it to apply debuffs, very good. So I use this in 1 or 2 of my builds while I was doing my early internal testing, and I enjoyed it a lot. It's the skill that had the greatest delta between my initial impression of it and how I actually enjoyed playing with it later on. So it's kind of cool. We'll check on September 7th to see how far off I was, but this was pretty fun. I don't think there's any other skills we need to cover because the other ones would be like Frostwall, I suppose, and Frostwall's information is pretty public already, but actually is it? I don't know. In any case, if you want to see more of these before September 7th, let me know. I do think that there is not nearly enough hype for the 092 patch. The amount of hype that there is right now is much smaller than it ought to be, because the 092 patch is going to be awesome, and I really, really look forward to Hype Week starting, where EHG actually tells us what's going to be coming in the patch. I'll see you then.